still in existence.
The survival rate was very high. Of the 2,323 cars made, there's probably 1,600 left in all body styles.
Okay, 2,323. He's got that down to an exact number, and there's still 1,600 of them.
Yes.
And they have a parade every year. Are you going to be in? Are you going?
Oh yes, we go.
Are you going to drive this?
Yes. Yes.
Will you drive this car, or will you haul it there to just
we will trailer the car to Auburn.
Yeah.
And then we always participate in the Hoosier Tour, which is a tour of 500 or 600 miles. And then we return.
Is everybody in Duesenberg or Accord?
Yes, on Auburn. And we return to Auburn from the tour, and then we celebrate the reunion of the 3 cars.
Okay.
And it's all over the Labor Day weekend.
Okay. And you're talking approximately how many vehicles?
There should be 200, in excess of 200.
Okay, and
cars.
you drive those miles, and everybody on the sideline stops and looks and.
Oh yes, we make a splash.
Okay. Now, had you had your choice of a Cord, Auburn, or a Duesenberg, which would you have preferred? This car?
Well, yes, I think so. I think this is the car.
Okay, now you were going to tell me a friend of yours located this. What was the story behind it?
Well, I had talked with this fellow in Auburn for about 6 years on Labor Day weekend. And
had you tried to trade him out of his car?
No, he had never bought a car.
And, okay.
So he said, why don't you come visit me sometime? And so it took me about 5 years to get there. And he had probably 50 cars of various kinds and a lot of Cords. And I had intended to spend about 3 hours with him and then come on home. Eventually I took the car.
Got him down to your price.
Well, not entirely down, but
okay. Anyway, you were able to buy it.
Yes, yes. And that was in '86. And I enjoyed driving the car, and it was a presentable car.
Oh, and it was in pretty good shape,
yes.
motor-wise and everything.
Was good, but the paint was bad and the chrome was bad.
And everything about this car now is authentic.
Yes, yes. There's nothing missing, and everything works.
What about the upholstery? Is there a place that you can get it done like it was done?
Yes, there's a fellow that we had met through club activities that has the original factory patterns for all these Cords and Auburns and Duesenbergs, and he made this upholstery from the original pattern, so it had to fit, and it's the only place that you would want to go get your upholstery.
Okay, is it leather?
It is leather, yes.
It's leather. Okay, and yes. You're not going to let just anybody ride in here, are you? But are you gonna let me?
Well, I'm still thinking about that.
The speedometer gauge goes up to 150.
Yes, and we'll never see that again.
Okay, but would it really do 150?
Well, this car has a V8 flathead Lycoming engine with a supercharger.
Can you work on these cars? Do you understand that? Are you a mechanic of any sort?
There's some things I understand and some things I don't.
Besides to turn the key on and listen to the motor go?
Yeah, well, I know how to do that.
Okay, all right, but you can do the rest of the things also.
Well, if I can, I know somebody that'll help me.
Okay, now you brought this in and you had it for what, several years before you decided to really get it redone?
Yes. I think I brought the car home in June of 1986, and Marty and Ron have had it over here about a year and a half.
What if I were to tell you I'd seen them out driving it every evening without your knowledge?
That would be fine.
I haven't, of course, but I just wondered if you But they've had it a year and a half.
You know, anybody that you can trust with a car for a year and a half, you can trust them to drive it.
I guess you could. I guess you could. And they probably enjoyed doing this.
Okay, now this is going to be the engine we spoke about earlier. And
with the flathead, whatever.
Yes, it's a flathead V8.
My, that's cleaner than my kitchen. My word.
This is the aluminum heads we were speaking about here. And the supercharger sits on top of the intake manifold with the carburetor on top of it. And the supercharger turns 6 times the crank speed. So you can tell how fast it's traveling by looking at the tachometer and multiplying that by 6.
Now, what about the transmission in this? I heard...
Well, this is, first of all, a front-wheel drive car. And the earlier generation of Cords, which were manufactured from 29 through 32, were the first production front drive cars. And then they made some improvements on front drive. And this is the second generation of Cord front drives. And this is the transmission right here. And the drive unit, or differential, is right behind the radiator. And then you have your engine. And the generator is back against the firewall. And
now, what about these headlights? Are those disappearing headlights, really?
Yes, these, the Cord Corporation also owned Stinson Aircraft, which had retractable landing lights on their planes. And since this was a Lycoming engine, which is an aircraft type engine, they wanted to utilize the retractable lights, and you crank them out with a little crank on the dash.
I noticed the doors. We're gonna have to. I hate to say this to you, but he's hinged it the wrong way.
Right. These are suicide doors.
Suicide?
Suicide. They open backwards. And 34 Fords had these, and various other cars, but most Auburns and Cords had suicide doors. This was still in the age of chivalry, and they thought the door lock should be on the right side so you could open the door for your wife or your lady friend.
You mean there's no lock on the door over there?
The door will lock on the inside, but there's no key entry on the left side.
So you have to come here.
Have to open this for your lady friend. Would you be my lady friend tonight?
Oh, and get in this suicide door. And, oh my, I don't know if I can stand this or not. Whew, this is great. This is great. Well, I'm sorry all of you can't experience this. I tell you what, I have never been in a Cord and never been in the lap of luxury like this, and it's really great. Have you got gas in this?
Oh, yeah, it's got, they put, I think, 5 gallons. We've got the car in reverse now. This is an electric pre-select transmission. And we're in reverse, as I said. And Cords had a reputation of not shifting. And I hope we can shift this time. We've selected low gear now. And we did shift, which is very good. And
oh, it's smooth. Oh, it's smooth. Believe me, all heads turn to look at this. Well, been nice knowing you.
As I get my RPMs up, I push the clutch in, and it will shift the car for me. And now I'm going to select third gear, and then we clutch it, and it shifts automatically. And now we're underway.
Okay, okay. Well, now this has a good ride. Tell me about some of the innovative things you have here.
Well, the Series 810 and 12, this is an 810, this is an 812 Cord, was a very innovative car. It had 31 firsts. In other words, things that other cars had never had before, such as the retractable headlights.
This is the first car that had that?
Yes. This is the first car with no running boards. This is the first car with a horn ring.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the first car with a hood that opens from the front instead of from the side. And there were other things like flush tail lights on the rear. Formerly they had stood on little stands or something like that. And the license plate is mounted centrally on the rear deck lid with a separate light for the
so the license plate
itself.
just had a lighted license plate.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed going with us by way of Time for Talk camera as we have ridden in a 1937 Ford, owned and driven today by Glenn O. Peterson from Wardell. He's been kind enough to take us out for this ride, and you've enjoyed this as much as we have, I hope. Glenn, it's been a real honor. It's been a real privilege to get to ride in one of these things and have everybody shout, "Hey, that's a pretty car."
Well, it was a pleasure for me today also. This is about the first time I've driven the car in about a year and a half.
Oh, really?
We put about 6-7 miles on it, and I think we put maybe close to 8 or 9 on this little job.